Wow, this is the biggest crowd we've ever had, and just for an MVP for Josh. So he thanks you for that. So I'm going to start with our normal routine, which is a couple announcements. And I'll start with our MVP. Josh, can you come up? I can already tell he's very comfortable with coming up here in front of all of you. So I'll read the nomination. Oh, so anyone who's new to Fox Run, every month we do our most valuable player, most valuable employee. And we choose that person based on a number of nominations. And the nominations, they don't just come from the management team. They come from, it could be a director, it could be someone's peer, but there's usually a good reason and somebody who really goes above and beyond. So the nomination form came from our facility supervisor, Amanda, and Amanda said, I would like to nominate Josh Zito from the maintenance department for MVP. Josh's primary role at Fox Run is painter. However, his willingness to learn and help has extended his role to include work orders, grounds, snow removal, setup for events, and even holiday decorating. Because no one, other than John, no one can reach the top of that Christmas tree. While Josh is always a great worker, his excellence has really shown over the past few weeks. During our first big snow event of the season, Josh stepped up by coming into work during off hours to help with snow cleanup. He's a huge help with cleaning and moving cars and cleaning up all the parking lots, all while dealing with requests and questions. He remained calm and patient throughout the stressful couple weeks. Josh made a point to help with work orders in the morning to help catch up with some of the work that needed to be completed inside the building as well. While Josh was busy with cleanup from the storm, he also managed to hang Christmas lights outside, help with decorations in the commons, specifically the garland. Nobody wants that job, by the way. Assist with the resident Christmas party and handle other tasks that were thrown his way. Josh's hard work, great attitude, and dedication are appreciated. So, let's hear for Josh. Of course, we love everyone on our maintenance team, but I can tell you, my experience, there's always a friendly, outgoing, upbeat, hey, good morning, and always a willingness to help out, and really jumps in with jobs that are meant for maybe other people. So Josh really is an asset, and just his personality fits the culture of Fox Run so well. And Josh, thank you for everything you do. Here is your certificates and your gas card. So thank you very much for all your hard work. I expect you to be up here a lot more often. And did you want to say anything? All right. Thanks, Josh. All right, I'm going to hand this over to Allison now for some announcements.
Thank you. I want to start by welcoming 2 new community members that moved in a week ago Thursday. We have Bob and Kathleen Dole in the audience. Would you both wave? Bob and Kathleen moved here from West Seneca and recently sold their home in Florida. So please welcome them if you see them. Welcome to Fox Run again. Resident council will now be recorded every single meeting. So we just had a meeting last Wednesday, so those will stream on channel 1390 every Thursday at 2 o'clock. So we streamed it, it was played yesterday and it'll continue to play every Thursday until we have a new meeting. So if you aren't able to attend those meetings in person, we encourage you to watch those. I also announced at Resident Council this week that I was excited to keep Jerry Carey within Fox Run. If anyone knows Jerry, he was the health center cook for many, many years over in our health center and independent living. So Jerry wanted to retire, but he loves Fox Run so much, he said, you know, where can I continue to fit? So Jerry's going to stay on with us driving. So he trained yesterday, and I'm hoping to add Friday medical rides. So I will put something out in all of your mailboxes once we firm that up, and some new procedures for the medical rides. And he made very good soup. We'll miss Jerry's soup. And last announcements that I had, if anyone knows Nancy Crowley, Nancy has been with Fox Run many years. She used to be our resident liaison. She still works in my department per diem, and she leads a Thursday reading group. She covers, she reads a lot of different books that cover Buffalo history. That's every Thursday at 10 a.m. She is looking for more participation in that, so that is on your calendars. But if that's something that interests you, please join her. That's up in the card room Thursdays at 10 a.m.
Wonderful.
And that's all I had. Any questions? Any resident announcements? Jan?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to remind you to bring your mugs to coffee hour. We could save about 2,000 cups a year just by doing those paper cups. So bring them if you can. And I just want to say, hey, 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 let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. The Bills make me want to shout.
Okay, I would really like to remind everyone, even your guests, to please pick up the poop from your dogs. I have got poop all over the front of my apartment.
And it's not Lucy.
And it's not Lucy. Please clean up after your pets. Thank you.
I have one thing. Good. I just want to remind everybody that Monday and Thursday, the bistro is open, and they have for dinner, and they have very good meals. Last night we had meatloaf, and I can't tell you with gravy, and I can't tell you how great it was. So please check in there before you decide to go in the dining room.
Anyone else? Okay.
Jan, that was great. I expect to see you on Sunday at the stadium. All right, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker. I know you've all been waiting for this, the presentation, to see what our expansion is going to look like. But I met our gentleman to my right, Patrick Mixdorf from EGA Architects. And there's something a little different about Patrick, something a little special that I really think fits this project and fits the culture of Fox Run. And I'm ad-libbing here, but we had a health center expansion. I've met plenty of architects, and you just never know what you're going to get. But there's a certain calmness and level-headedness, and this is your project, and I'm going to do what you want. So it's really a breath of fresh air to work with Patrick, and we meet with him regularly, and it's every other week. We have Zoom calls looking at designing. So it's really gone well from this perspective. So I hope you give him a warm welcome. So Patrick Mixdorf from EGA.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here. Happy to see so many smiling faces. So two parts to this presentation today. One, sort of a typical slideshow, sort of to give you a big overview of the proposed project. Happy to answer questions along the way at the end, however you want to do it. And then I have sort of a virtual sort of walkthrough of the project that we can show you. That'll be can be a little interactive if you want it to be. We'll go through the slideshow first, and then we'll go through some questions, and then we can do the virtual part after that. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
So, my name, as Bill mentioned, Patrick Mixdorf, principal at EGA Architects. We're based in Massachusetts. We've been around since 1966, and for almost that entire time have been doing nothing but senior housing. So, my first job at EGA was the original Canterbury Woods up in Amherst. So, that was 27 years ago. So I've been doing this a long time. Hopefully the gray hair gives some indication that that's the case. As Bill mentioned, we try to take your guys' particular needs, keep them highest in mind as we're doing these projects. This isn't my project. I don't live here. I'll never live here. But our goal here is to create, I'm not going to retire to Buffalo, probably. No disrespect to Buffalo. I actually have, my wife's family is from here, so a lot of connections to Buffalo. But it's your guys' project. What do you guys want out of it? What can I do to help you make the best project possible? So with that in mind, we'll launch into the slideshow here. This is essentially a virtual image of your campus. So Big Tree Road is over here, California Road is there. We're sitting right here. Let me make sure that I can make this pointer thing work. Let's see. There it is. We're sitting right here, front door, Arborview North, Arborview South, Health Center over here. Your existing patio homes sort of right around the edges. This also shows the new, so new patio homes over here, new apartment addition here next to the Commons, and 2 new apartment additions off of Arborview South. So we'll go through those in pretty decent detail just to let you understand why they are the way they are. The big challenge starting with this project was that your campus was never designed to be added onto. So most of the space was filled with stuff, either parking lots, carports, some green space that you made use of. So our challenge right from the start was how can we do something that fits in with the fabric of your campus, but also gives you the opportunity to build towards the future, enhance the amenities that you have, provide for some new apartments, et cetera, et cetera. So pretty big challenge right off the bat, but I think we've managed to do a pretty good job. Again, similar to the earlier sentiment about trying to make this the best project for you, our goal isn't to create something that looks unnatural or out of context with this location. There's an architecture here that we are responsible to, but also we're not slaves to it. We're sort of trying to take the best of what you've got, enhance it a little bit, make it as good as we can, and move forward from there. So this is just a plan of your campus, nothing particularly exciting here. Again, Big Tree Road, California Road, we're sitting right in here. Apartment buildings are in green, new patio homes are in a lighter green.
Room volume on the bottom.
Commons expansion, we'll go into detail about all these things going forward. So those are the new apartment additions highlighted in yellow, 63 new apartments, 8 new patio homes in 4 duplexes, very similar to the ones that you currently have. Some slight modifications for those of you that have been in them or live in them currently. Small commons additions. There's a pretty expansive renovation that we'll go through, but there are some selective additions to this building to provide some additional amenities that you don't currently have. Apartment layout. Not sure what happened to the monument. So this is Arborview South, Arborview North is up here, Commons Building again over here. So the 2 additions off of Arborview South basically total about half of the new units. What we tried to do, hopefully what comes across here, is that we're trying to sort of make sense of the architecture that you currently have, the layout that you currently have. There's not some strange angle coming off. This thing is trying to be very responsive to the architecture that you guys already have in place. So that's the first floor. Second floor, very similar. Nothing very interesting about this slide, so I'll go through quickly. Third floor, this is the unique part of this project. Because you're so limited in space, because as you know, you guys have a moat. A bit unusual for a senior housing campus. So we can't go very far. So in order to maximize the number of apartments, we had to find a way to put space, we're going to come back to that, in the 3rd floor. So there are relatively small, I think there's 11 total apartments on the 3rd floor, which will be unique to the campus. And I think what this next image shows you, so this is a view of the larger of the 2 additions to Arborview South. So what you're seeing here, this is existing Arborview sort of in the background here. Your current front door is hidden right back here. And this is the new sort of 2.5 story, as they call it, addition to that. The idea is that we're doing very similar sort of architecture on the outside, similar siding, similar trim, similar windows, but obviously there's some unique things going on up here because we have this extra story. So there's a half story. Those apartments have dormers, so they're slightly interesting, more interesting shapes to them. All of the apartments have decks and balconies, patios, depending on what floor you're on. There's a new covered entrance sort of, the entrance stays roughly speaking where it currently is, Arborview South, but we've modified, we've created a more permanent covered entry to that space. On the opposite side, this is next to the community building. We're actually sitting just off the screen here in this space. This is the new library and games addition, and this is the third apartment addition that comes off of the community building. And this thing you'll see, actually I'm gonna go back. So one of the logic here is that your original building has a lot of roof. So what we saw when we first looked at this is that we thought we could get apartments up into that roof space. I don't know if any of you have ever been up into the attic space, probably not.
No.
Matt probably discourages that. There's a lot of space up there. You could have a pretty sizable party. So one of our first visits, it became abundantly clear that that was a real opportunity. But as you'll see, because this is only a half story, on the piece that faces towards the community building looks very similar to the wing on the opposite side of the community building, because these apartments face out sort of towards the moat, towards the south. New library and games addition. We'll show you an interior image of that as well. So switching from sort of the big picture thing, talking about what we're doing to the community building to enhance and expand the amenities that you've got. So this is the current existing layout. We're in here. This is all currently administrative space. Your pool is here, your dining and private dining are here, your bistro is here, service stuff, kitchen, maintenance, etc. Activity room, woodworking, it's all here. So what we're proposing to do is take most of the sort of admin, Bill, Jill, all the folks that support them, and put them on the second floor, and bring the second floor stuff like games, the library, down to the first floor. So all of the common amenities will be on the first floor. So in this room will stay roughly speaking the way it is, but we're going to put a new stage where on the other side of this wall. This whole wall gets removed and the stage goes where there's currently a mechanical unit in there. So essentially, if I come back at some point in the future when this is all done, you'll have a stage here, not a super high stage, but something big enough that a presenter or whatever can stand up there. You might be able to take your piano up there, etc. Give you a little better sight lines. We're going to solve some of the acoustic challenges in this room, improve some of the technology. So that's the event center. We're going to add some amenities. We're going to take the activity room and turn it into a theater. We're going to move the creative arts and give it a dedicated space up where essentially where Bill's office is. We're going to relocate the salon and improve the salon. We're adding a massage room. The exercise area gets larger. And I'm going to go through chunks of the building and go into this a little more detail, but I'm trying to give you the sort of general overview. Dining gets expanded. The private dining goes away and a much larger addition goes there. Bistro gets reconfigured slightly. New training kitchen. You get a new market. The big showstopper is the pub area, which I have a rendering of that we'll show you in a little bit.
Good.
So that should be fun. So when we work on drawings these days, we do everything in 3 dimensions inside the computer. So we can see, we can look at all the little pieces, and part of that second part of this presentation will be wandering around inside this building, outside on the campus. So this is hard to read because there's a lot going on. So I don't expect you to understand this drawing, but this is a 3-dimensional computer version of this building, as it will be when we're done. So looking at just a portion of the project, so overall community building, this is just this corner. So the exercise, we're gonna have a room that's essentially where your current exercise room is now, just to get dedicated to equipment. And then we have an expansion of the exercise area that can be used for yoga, any manner of sort of non-equipment based programs that you might have. So your exercise area probably grows by 50 or 60% from what it currently is. It won't be so tight. Allison's had a lot of input on where this is headed. New salon, your current salon is pretty cramped, I would say. So we've expanded that, given its own dedicated space, a little bigger, a little more opportunity for, there's a pedicure station, there's a manicure station, some additional functionality and amenities in there. A massage room, could be used for massage, it could be used for other things, could be used for personal training by the activity stokes, wellness and exam space, a brand new dedicated creative arts area. I'm sure you guys will use it for other things, but it hopefully will get a little less multi-purpose than your current activity space. So that's got probably, again, 50% bigger than your current activity room. This orange area down here is principally marketing related things. It's still worthwhile to have marketing folks by the front door. So they basically get it, where they meet with the prospective residents stays where it is. Their offices move upstairs as well. Gift shop gets relocated. Where the gift shop is now becomes a more dedicated art gallery, similar to the one that you currently have, but a little more designed than it currently is. Mail gets reconfigured. You're gonna have 60-something new friends. We need more space for mail. Your current mail is a little crowded, a little hard to navigate. So what we tried to do is we arranged the mail around sort of a horseshoe so you can move in and out of it easier. To the extent that there are people with mobility challenges, it should be a little easier to deal with.
What was the red on that?
So red in our drawings, this is a stair, an elevator. It's anything that goes up and down through the building, stairs or elevators typically. So if you see on any of these colored drawings and it's red, that's all it is. It's not a warning sign.
Where will people come into the building?
What's that?
Where will people come into the building?
Exactly the same place that they do now.
So on there it'd be,
So your current connection to Arborview North is here, which we're going to put in, again, a more permanent covered walkway as part of this project. But that door stays where it is. We're going to create a vestibule there so that there's a little more weather security. But the main front door stays where it is. The lobby, when we're done, will not be dramatically different than it currently is in terms of the way that it feels. We can go into a lot of detail and maybe there'll be an opportunity to do that. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds because there are a lot of weeds. We've been working on this project for probably 20 months, I think. And we've had untold hours of conversations about all of these things. So I could go into them, but I don't think it's to the advantage of this particular group at this moment to go in too deep. So this is this doesn't have materials. This is just a view of the creative arts. It doesn't have the colors right. It's essentially a black and white view of the new creative arts space. So there's dedicated cubbies for storing art. There's obviously a sink, a bunch of other storage, and then these sort of work tables for doing whatever sort of projects that you guys might be doing. So moving on. So this is the sort of new dining area. So the bistro remains, roughly speaking, the size that it currently is. What we've done is we've taken over your current pub for a new market, which will have sort of a, not so much like your gift shop now, but more dedicated to food, sort of things that you, mostly food related items. The gift shop still has a home. It'll be dedicated to sort of the non-food related items. So to the extent that you have takeout stuff, that would sort of work out of here as well. But roughly speaking, the bistro stays more or less like it is. We're dividing it up differently with furniture, with some partitions. We're trying to help solve some of the sound issues that exist in that room. Because I've had lunch in there, it's loud. We're trying to do some things to help solve that problem without making it sort of chopping it up into tiny little pieces. So it has a great gregarious feel to it now. You guys have what we call rowdy tables. Lots of people get together and things. We're trying to maintain that feeling because you've created that culture here. But we do want to solve some of the issues. New training kitchen, a little more perhaps in keeping with the architecture of the space. The dining room Again, similarly, your dining room now is sort of just a big open space. We're trying to make it a little more intimate, give it a little more sense of, more like a restaurant that you might go to in terms of the way that the seating is laid out, the way that you might feel like you're in a little more private space as you're in there. And obviously,
Acoustics for the dining room.
similar concerns about acoustics, trying to help resolve those with some partitions that help break up the sound. We're obviously adding a significant dining expansion. Your current Acorn room is sort of this space right here. So we're expanding out beyond that, but also incorporating that space. So this space should have a completely different feel than your current dining room. There are big windows along this wall. There's a big operable door so that it sort of has an indoor-outdoor opportunity when the weather is nice. But it's also can be divided from the rest of this. So hopefully these two dining spaces have a little bit of a unique feel to them. I think that's most of that.
Is the new expansion for the dining room pushing out into what's the patio?
It is taking over a part of the patio. It's moving sort of towards your koi pond.
Will there be additional patio space added?
We have not added additional patio space at this point. We talked about it early on when we were first having discussions with the landscape architect, but we did not choose to expand the capacity of that outdoor dining.
My husband and I, this past summer, had a party that included the dining room and patio. And 15 years ago, I attended a party here that used the patio. And it's been a wonderful ambiance for the use in the summer.
Yeah.
And I hope you reconsider that.
So what we've tried to do, I think it's worth talking about maybe going forward whether there's enough space out here, but we did try to create a much more direct connection to the dining space from the outside. So literally, there's a big door here that could be completely open that would allow basically unencumbered.
Pre-dining.
Yeah, that's your current sort of the space. We call that pre-dining, but it's the space right over there. Not dramatically different than it is today.
Okay.
Pat, can I chime in on the decision with, what's the other? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? So with regards to that patio, we're limited with, I'll hold it way out here. We're limited with space with where we can expand the patio. And when we looked at that patio that went off of the Acorn room, it is used occasionally, but only occasionally. Most of the time, and as Pat said, we've been at this for about 20 months. The past 2 summers, we've been monitoring who uses that patio, and it honestly rarely gets used. And we had this conundrum, just a second, we had this conundrum where how do we expand our dining room with the limited space we have? So we had to make a sacrifice somewhere. Do we sacrifice the pre-dining area? Do we take over the gallery? Do we take over the breezeway? And the most logical space with the least amount of negative impact would be to go into that patio that doesn't get used as often. And as Patrick pointed out, we tried to at least give it some utility for outdoors by having those section of doors, and there's a skylight in there as well, and give it almost like a 3-season room feel if we need to open that up. I know Lisa has a lot of plans to do that, but you're right, it's not sitting outside, and this is also space that gets, quite honestly, used 3 months of the year. So when you have to make a decision like this, I know not everyone's going to be thrilled that we got rid of that part of the patio, but if you have to find space, that was the best way to do it, and we're doing the best we can to, again, still give it some outdoor utility. Yes?
I understand your problems with space and room and location you're trying to work with. Part of the problem with the patio not getting used, Debbie won't see this out there. They don't have enough staff, they don't use the tables, they don't use the full amount of space that they have out there. I understand it's only a 3 or 4 month thing.
And that's a great point. The point is that people aren't getting seated out there at times. let's not forget, we climbed out of the pandemic into a staffing crisis for a long time, and we weren't not able to use the patio as much as we could. And maybe that leads into why people aren't using it. But we found from the beginning, when we first put that awning up, it just seemed to be a waste of space for most of the year, even pre-pandemic. But we are going to do a better job, obviously, of seating people there, and we can't plan on an expansion based on poor staffing today. We have to go forward as if we're going to be fully staffed and be able to use that a lot more. And I think with this design, we're going to be able to have people outside a lot more.
So this is a view, again, I'm going to call it a black and white view, because when you see some of the renderings later that are sort of represent the actual colors and textures and finishes, you'll be able to tell the difference between these two. But I'm going to call this black and white view. This is looking from that proposed dining expansion back into your existing dining room. So we have what is essentially a couple of operable, movable wall things. So to the extent if you have a big Thanksgiving meal and you wanted a big open space where everybody can be together, you can open that up, use it in a more flexible way. But on a regular basis, when you want a little more intimate dining experience again, those two spaces can be unique from one another. As Bill mentioned, there's a big skylight. You can't see the big doors that I've been talking about over here. They're just off the screen. But when we do the virtual tour, we can walk in there and look around a little bit more. I think the last piece is mostly what we've been calling the entertainment district. Again, here's the event center. We talked about the market. Basically, we're taking over some of your salon is right now currently here. There's a bit of a storage space here and here. We're taking over those spaces to create a new pub. And we're taking over your existing activity space, more or less. It's actually a little bigger than your current activity space, to create a dedicated theater. The kinds of theater seats that you'd expect to find in a nice movie theater. It's a relatively small space to the extent that you have 100 people for some sort of presentation. You're still going to do it in here. I think this has roughly 20 seats in it. So it's for the dedicated sort of regular moviegoers for the most part. But you'll be able to do other things in there, smaller presentations, smaller gatherings. That's that space. We have, and again, not again, but this is the new games and library space, which I have a view of, a very polished interior rendering of. And the new golf simulator area. So what we're trying to do is make this area that's just over here be a real hub of activity as much as possible for all kinds of different activities. So this is a view, roughly speaking, from just out here in the corner. If your existing pub was on your right and you were looking towards the pool table, the existing pool table would be just over here somewhere. So what you're seeing is the outside of the theater space. You're seeing the golf simulator here in the back. You're seeing the actual bar itself for the pub. And then just a bunch of casual seating. There's a big round fireplace in the space. We've got space for big TVs for when the big Bills game is on. So it should be a really lively and unique space. But one of the challenges is you have a very distinct interior architecture here, based on the Roycroft model from this area, very arts and crafts. So we've tried to be sensitive to that without, again, being slavish to it. So we have some elements here, you'll see in the details, where we tried to pull in things, like even in this room, you'll see in some of these things, the sort of pattern on here. We're not necessarily redoing the red, green, and gold glass colors, but we are trying to do some of the things that respond to that. So it's a slightly more contemporary take on the architecture that you've got. Because we're not doing dramatic changes to the lobby, for example. We don't want you to get whiplash walking through this space and having every space seem like it was designed by somebody else and they don't work well together. So we've been very sensitive, we think, to trying to sort of blend your existing architecture with something new and exciting. This is the new library and game space, looking out towards that third apartment addition in the back. big glass room, basically. Some interesting light fixtures, high ceilings, a real opportunity for that space to do more than one thing. So it has a possibility to be active more often than it maybe currently is.
Where does the pool table go?
So, that's a good question. So the pool table, you can just see it.
Oh, yeah, right there.
And if I go back to the plan,
There it is.
it's right there.
Oh, okay. Where's the ping pong? What ping pong?
Does the wood shop stay?
The wood shop stays. It's just off the screen right here.
Where's the new ping pong table going?
Wherever you want it to go, possibly on top of the pool.
What is the purpose of a golf simulator?
So, I mean, the obvious thing is it's for simulating golf, but it does more than that. You can do all kinds of different kinds of games and activities on it. It's essentially a projector and a screen. But it also, right, it's similar to the Wii thing. They have all kinds of games built into it. It's primarily as a golf simulator, so you can take a golf club and swing an actual ball, and it calculates very accurately how far you hit the ball. So it has a bit of a niche use, but they're incredibly popular in communities like your guys's. So not surprising that almost every project that we're working on these days is incorporating one because they're so popular. But it's not just limited to golf. And we tucked it a little bit away, a little bit out of here, but again, we're trying to create a very active and dynamic space where people are doing all kinds of things. We'll see, you guys will determine how these spaces are used, when they're active, all that sort of stuff. We can only do so much. We can provide the opportunities, and you guys will make them your own. I think that's the end of the slideshow. So, yes, sir.
Is there a space in the library for a computer center?
There is. So in this corner back here, which isn't really in the view that I showed you, there is a setup for a couple of computers. You guys have a magnifier, you guys have a bunch of equipment up there that you use in your existing library, so we've accounted for space for that.
So does the shelving go around that little niche and
Right.
up to the?
Could you
Yeah.
repeat the questions,
And it's
please?
only on the right and the left is the?
She's asking where the shelving is. So there's shelving on both sides as you come in, which was very apparent in that view, but there's also shelving as it goes around this corner and then back towards here. I think I sent Bill at one point the sort of lineal footage of shelving. I don't remember what the number is off the top of my head, I apologize.
Have you seen our existing library?
Absolutely.
And do you think all the books in that library are going to fit in this one?
No.
Whoa.
So the challenge, again, sort of to Bill's earlier point about finding a compromise. So the challenge of your existing upstairs amenities is that they get, as I understand it, relatively minimal use. People don't find their way up there. They go up there for dedicated purposes, they go up there to play games. We're trying to incorporate them into the sort of a larger sort of activity. So it's trying to bring all of those amenities down to the ground floor so that they're all part of the bigger mix of what the fun that's going on in the
But
community.
they don't mix well.
We'll make it work.
Anybody else have any other questions before we do the virtual? Got more?
My question is, I enjoyed the entrance for this facility, the present.
Yep.
I think it's very inviting, and I have a problem with now with the new construction, you're taking away the entrance itself. The entrance is, in essence, to the side.
The main entrance.
So what's the main one?
The main entrance is up here. So when you come in off of Big Tree Road, you will not notice any new construction until you get to the corner where you would be turning into the parking lot for the community building. So then you would see the new third apartment addition. If you came around the outside, you'd have to get around the corner of South Arborview before you saw the new apartment building. So from Big Tree Road, your experience of the campus is going to be unchanged.
Okay, when I meant entrance, I didn't mean coming into the facility.
Into the building.
I meant coming to our entrance here to this building, to this building.
Will the
That is-
stairs be
I think
there? Will
is
that be
entirely
land
changed.
stair?
Absolutely, no changes. When you've come in the front door, the only thing that will be different visually is that right now you guys have a fireplace sort of off to the left as you come straight in. We're putting a new fireplace with a new surround immediately in front of you as you come into the building. Literally, the stairs are unchanged. We're changing out some of the light fixtures in the atrium rotunda space. But your experience of entering this building, the vestibule is the same, the lobby is the same, the rotunda, I'm not sure if you guys call it that, some people call it that, is unchanged. The grand stair is unchanged, because that's a very, very important part of the architecture here.
Where's the reception desk as you come in?
Exactly the same place.
Greenhouse.
This is all great for visual effect here. Would you say a word about the ceilings and floors and the walls related to sound?
Absolutely. So one of the first meetings that we ever had with Bill and Jill and Matt and the group, we sort of went through an analysis of how your existing construction was built and what code changes subsequent, because it's been 17 or 18 years since that building was designed, probably more like 18 or 19, honestly. So codes have changed, expectations have changed. So we are providing walls and floors that exceed the code requirements for sound. We're providing specific sound mat underneath the flooring to absorb more sound. So there should be less sound transferred sort of up and down, sort of from the second floor down to the first floor, from the third floor down to the second floor. And there should also be less sound transferred side to side from one apartment to the next with the things that we've done than what you're used to. Because we did a specific analysis of what exists here today and looked at how we could improve it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Since you've got a substantial addition in the number of people, how is the traffic flow going to work? Have you looked at that, and are we going to have a more crowded situation or basically about the same?
So your North Arborview basically unchanged, right? There's no new residents there. There's no change to the parking layout. There's no change to the carport layout, etc. So roughly speaking, no impact to the folks that live in North Arborview. They're the least impacted by this whole project. South Arborview, we've obviously chewed up some of your parking lot. We've put back as many parking spaces as we could. We did an analysis of your current parking situation. We had to do that both for our own practical purposes, but also to satisfy the town. So we've added an additional parking lot in here to help overcome the fact that we've lost some parking spaces. The long-term plan is to recreate some carports for political reasons. We're currently not showing those. It have most to do with the nonsense that we went through with the town. But the intention is to put some carports back at this end. But for the short term, those carports are going away during construction. Yes.
What about the acoustics in the dining room?
We're trying to do, so last week I think it was, a specialty consultant came through. He does both audio-visual stuff, but also acoustics. He went through and looked at all these spaces, including this one, but also the dining rooms and the bistro, to see what we could do. We've already sort of separate and apart from his input. Everyone working on this project, architect, interior designer, mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, we've all done dozens or hundreds of these projects. We understand that these things are problems. So we are ahead of him a little bit, but to the extent that he can provide us with some additional guidance, we will incorporate that as well.
I assume that what you're saying is because you're only going to do sound installations but nothing is going to be done in the first building, so I'll still be able to hear my neighbors.
Can you repeat it?
I think her question was, in the existing apartment buildings, this project does not solve any sound issues in those buildings. We can provide recommendations. There are a lot of things that you can do that we're doing in the new ones when they go back and renovate, turn apartments over, that you could incorporate those and solve some of those problems. Some of them are a little harder to solve without doing some pretty significant input, but for now, there isn't any intention as part of this project to solve that.
Could I follow up on that question about crowding? Where we have the biggest crowds, of course, is at the dining room area.
Yep.
And we'll have substantially more people. How is that traffic pattern going to work out?
You mean essentially foot traffic, people moving, or
People
parking?
coming down to get into the dining room.
Understood.
Carts and all that type of thing.
This might be a better question for either Lisa or Bill, just because, as I understand it, there was a time pre-COVID when you guys had multiple dining seatings.
Right.
And because of COVID, because of staffing related issues, it became such that you were having more and more of your residents eating all at once. And so it created some traffic problems because there were that many more people. I think the long-term goal is to return to more dining, both venues, because you get a new pub now. I would guess that the dining opportunities in this proposed layout are probably 40% bigger than what you currently have. So to the extent that we're adding 35% more residents, we're adding 40% more dining space. So we've hopefully solved some of those concerns, but I think multiple dining venues or an extending dining opportunity is the only real way. It's sort of like you can't make a highway wider to solve a traffic problem. It just, everybody fills in that space. But extending your dining opportunities over time helps to alleviate some of those challenges.
And to take it a step further, it's not just the physical plant, the physical changes. The new pub area will alleviate some of that, but operationally we're going to make some changes. And Lisa's in the back; she didn't nod or tell me I'm crazy. We're going to use the bistro more. And Pat's right. Pre-COVID, we really didn't have a problem because many folks just naturally came down to dinner at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. So it might. For us, I don't know what it means now, we'll see when it happens, but it could mean extended hours. It could mean, and we don't like to say seatings necessarily because we don't want to force people into a box, but everyone is coming down at 5 o'clock right now. But I think organically, new folks moving in aren't used to that and they may want to eat later, and we can incorporate again. There's a lot of space in the bistro. We have the bistro open only a couple days a week, so that will be able to accommodate more people. And the Oak Room itself is growing. So I think the combination of more space through architecture and operational changes with times and extending periods and the use of that space, it's up to us to make sure that we accommodate all of you.
Bill, will there be food in the pub?
Well, the question is, will there be food in the pub? You will be able to take your meal similar to the bistro out to the pub area, and Lisa will have plans of when the pub is open to be able to serve out there as well, so yes.
Oh, good. In the new apartments, what's the breakdown of how many one-bedrooms, how many two-bedrooms, how many one-bedrooms with dens, etc.?
So in a perfect world, I would know that exact answer off the top of my head. I have that information. I will happily convey it to you. It's a mix that trends slightly larger than your current apartment mix, so there are more two-bedroom dens, there are more two-bedrooms, there are some one-bedrooms and one-bedroom dens, but the trend over time with all communities like yours is that people want larger apartments. Yes. So there are, but I can absolutely get you that literal information, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
That's good enough for me.
Okay. You.
Is there any thought given, because I brought this up one other time, about visitors parking lot, to allow the people who have a spot where they like to park for some reason, whether they're immobile and can't get around that easy, instead of visitors coming in and taking those spots, where these people would rather park because they're closer to their unit. Is there anything there that was given consideration for a
So
parking lot?
as we did the parking analysis, we looked at all of the empty space in this parking lot out here, which is why it made it easier for us to put a significant wing out here. As of right now, there's no designation to say visitors need to park here, but maybe that's a good idea. We can force visitors to come to the common area. Naturally, though, I think people want to go to where their loved one's apartment is, and they're going to park close. And all of you like to park in your spot, but it's not a designated spot for you. It's like anywhere else where you want to be close, and you want to be by, and especially folks on the first floor, because they go in and out of their patios. So that'll be something. And many of those are taken, right. But there is going to be a reconfiguration of many of these lots where the spaces will be added more. If you take, like, say, this square out here, there'll be more spaces there now just by the way the engineers have designed it, moving the spots around. But we can certainly try our best to accommodate that when we actually get done with it, and then maybe make a designation or tell everyone who lives here, please have your guests park. There's always going to be people that violate it, we know that. But yeah, that's a good idea. If we can encourage folks to park here rather than over in the north and south, we'll try to do that, yes.
I showed you a couple. Like these are essentially photorealistic color renderings. That's again.
You said something about one of the dining rooms. You could show us in color.
So I showed you the pub. We'll go back to. So that represents the actual finishes proposed for this space. So you can see there's a pretty interesting wallpaper going back here. There's some interesting fabrics on the furniture. Like, so that's intended to be an accurate representation of what it's going to look like. Because this project is a little bit out in the future, to the extent that anybody understands or been through the interior design process, products become discontinued, so there's likely to be changes as we go along because those things become unavailable over time. But this is as close as we can be knowing what we know today.
As we get into further questions, I should have mentioned this before we started. Pat is going to be in the conference room outside of Pamela's desk, and he will be here all day. And anyone is welcome to come in and ask questions, and there might be, sorry Pat, there might be more detail you can see, but if you have very specific questions, don't hesitate to ask now, but if you want to take the time one-on-one, Pat will be available.
I'm interested in the south entrance. They're going to add onto it. Yes.
What was the comment?
It's the one before.
Yeah, so this is, the current entrance comes out straight out of here right now.
Yes, but right now, as we unload our cars from shopping, there is a very nice area in there where we can unload our cars. Right. What is going to happen when that addition is going to be put? How are we going to unload our cars?
So the configuration, the geometry of that entrance is slightly changed, but the basic idea remains the same. So right now you have an awning that comes out off the face of the building out towards the road.
Yes.
So we're going to make a slightly more permanent version of that comes in. It comes in off the side, but the parking lot is right here. So your experience of unloading groceries should be very similar in the future than it is today.
Like right now, it's perfect because you can put right now.
Can you go to the rendering?
Yeah.
It will be the same. You'll be able to pull right up. See where that person in the gray shirt is? You'll be able to do the same thing.
Yes.
So there's essentially a theoretical loading spot right there. So it's different, but the idea and how it works hopefully will be very similar to what you've got.
I think there was a dog in the.
We're going to make sure that somebody cleans up after that dog.
Oh yeah, I know the dog.
Oh yeah.
That is a dog. That's open seating. That's technically not dining space. As you get closer to the pub, it's a little more dining feel, but this is more open air gathering space. So back to, as Pat was saying, we want the whole entertainment area to have a feel of life. We want it to be exciting, something always going on in there. And a lot of the games that we talk about, so library space has tables where folks can do puzzles or Scrabble, as we saw in the rendering. Folks can come out and use this. They can go out into the new pub area and where the open seating is and use that for the same purpose. Our goal with this project, one of the goals, is to create more gathering space, because right now we're kind of all over the place where you can meet here in front of the pool table, or there's the area in the south is the south entrance and the north entrance on the second floor. Our goal is to create more gathering places, indoor and outdoor. And we haven't even touched on the outdoor gathering space that we plan on, but it's meant to bring people together and to be able to use this in a very active way.
So pets might be allowed in some of the gatherings?
Yes. It's similar to now.
So when we have to do these renderings, we have to make them look interesting, right? So we need to put people in them, because if you saw a space with no people in it, you'd be like, what's wrong with this place? That place seems terrible. And we all like dogs, so that's why there's a dog in there. Yes?
I have a question about the cinema. I'm not sure whether you would be the best answer or Bill. I question the advisability of it. We have movies here on 3 nights a week.
I'll repeat the question.
I don't understand what the use of the cinema is, and will it be used every day? Is there going to be a cost because it's a different movies? How do you...
So there's a lot of questions here about our small, more intimate movie theater. Why do we have it? Is it really going to be worth it? We do movies in here. Well, if anyone has ever been in a movie in here, it's not the greatest place to sit. We have these chairs, which we need to keep for all the activities and all the use of this space. This is a multi-purpose space. And what we found by touring other communities is having a dedicated movie theater really makes a lot of sense. So our plan with this theater is to make it feel like a movie theater. And so instead of movies here every Friday and Saturday, we're going to do them in this new theater area. And 20 seats, well, that may not be enough. Most of the time it will, because I've been here where we've shown movies, and you have whatever Shawshank Redemption on the screen and 11 people sitting in different areas. It looks very cold and uninviting. We want this to be a gathering space where we want people to be excited to go to. So if you create a separate movie theater, we can do that. We can also use it for other things. We're actually talking about holding board meetings in there, because the creative arts room is gone, and we can't use the new creative arts room because that's specific just to crafts, arts and crafts. So we're not going to meet there. We don't have a space for the board anymore. We're probably going to use the theater. We can do it for guest speakers if it's going to be a smaller crowd, something more specific. So there's a lot of use, and it'll be better soundproof too. Because right now you're in here, you can hear the movie better out by Pamela's desk sometimes than you can in here. So we want it to be better for everyone and create that designated space. And no, there won't be an extra cost to it. It's better use of an old creative arts room. We're making it more designated just for movies.
I have two things. Number one, wouldn't that smaller space work well as a chapel? Also?
So we have a non-denominational chapel meditation space right now in our health center.
Okay, the other thing I want to say, at all of these kinds of meetings, I've heard Roycroft. I was really pleased to hear you couple that with the arts and crafts movement, of which the Roycrofts were a small part. But I hope you also will incorporate the thought of William Morris with your decorator and with what you do, because he was the biggest name in the decor of that period.
Absolutely.
Microphone.
Yeah, sorry. Obviously, the people in this crowd come from a whole range of educational backgrounds, professional backgrounds. You and I can have a conversation later about a all of that stuff. I'm happy to. I can even show you some of the interior design that's proposed. You will see elements of that for sure.
Great.
Yes.
I have one comment and one question. The first comment is...
Do you want the mic?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry, everyone, I'm so sorry.
The first comment is, if you're looking for me, I will be in the new movie theater. Sleeping. The second comment is, I'm still not sure, and maybe some of us are. Off the dining room, will you still have some sort of a brick patio? And will it be able to have I mean, will that right now we have a dining room that has windows, and you can open them all, and you got that patio, but you don't show a patio.
The patio will largely, except for the part that we're taking over by expanding where the Acorn Room is, the bulk of that patio will remain. So when let me go to that plan. So right now, the doors out of your dining room are here, and you have that sort of awning over the top of that. Right. So all of that patio space that's out there stays.
Okay. With an awning.
The awning, we're not moving the awning either.
Okay. What about the koi pond?
The koi pond is just outside the limits of construction here, so we are going to relocate it so that they don't harm it or the occupants of it during construction.
The koi pond will move to the other side of the walkway.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. When does all this construction and change begin?
Right now, we believe that it will be the sort of middle of the summer of this year. We are held hostage by state bureaucracy, primarily, that's keeping us from starting now. We are literally going to issue documents for bid on Tuesday of next week, so the contractor can start getting subcontractor pricing and sort of confirm the budget that we've been carrying through the project. So all of the things that move towards that construction start are in process right now, but the state controls all of our ultimate timeline.
So to give a quick update on that, we had submitted an application with the New York State Department of Financial Services. We just refer to them as the DFS. We submitted an application in September. Somewhere about 6 weeks later, they said, we've received it and we'll start looking at it soon. And then in December, we had sent an email to say, how is it going? And they said, we're taking the rest of the month off because of the holidays, and we promised to look at it in January. We did get good news earlier this week, and they did email us and say, we have your application, we're still looking at it, and we hope to get back to you with questions by the end of the month. Now, with our experience with the state, that is actually very good news, and we can laugh that they're dragging their feet, but the fact that they acknowledge that they will start answering questions by the end of this month is really a good sign, because we feel our application was very thorough and there won't be as many questions. This is from the experience of our attorney, who this is all she does, and she deals with the DFS often. She feels like the question and answer period should be shorter than her typical experience. So hopefully we get something from the state fairly soon.
Can we see the walkthrough slides?
We can.
Please, let's see the walkthrough.
Yeah, I know we're past our timeline, so if anybody doesn't want to listen to this idiot talk anymore, by all means, I won't be offended.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
We're fascinated.
That's next. The walkthrough is next.
And again, Pat will be here afterwards. I can make sure you have his cell number and his home address. If you have further questions.
So I can't do this and hold the microphone at the same time, so I may juggle them back and forth. But this is, just to kick us off, this is as if you were coming in off of Big Tree Road. This is where your front entrance is. So just to warn you, when we do these projects in 3 dimensions, we build the sort of the geometry of it, but we don't necessarily get all of the colors exactly right in every location because it's incredibly time consuming and tedious. So I have essentially turned off the colors so that no one is like, why does that look like that? Because it's a natural reaction. So this is going to be, again, sort of a black and white wander around, but all of the buildings are the right size, they're all the right shape, they have all the right pieces. A lot of the landscaping is correct, but not obvious, not all of it. Obviously, you can see even right here when you first come in, you guys have the sign and that sort of stuff. We haven't recreated all of that because it doesn't really serve a purpose. So just right off the top, warning about this, but I think you'll see that this gives you a good experience of what it will be like, what the new pieces will look like. We'll start by doing a tour around the outside, show you all the new buildings, and then we will go into this building and walk around on the inside. And by all means, shout out questions as we go, and I'll pick up the microphone again.
Where's the medium?
Where's the what?
The medium.
We did not create the boulevard. I apologize.
Slow down.
Speed limit's 15.
Make it faster.
Okay, left or right?
So we're gonna go around towards and do them 1, 2, 3. Apartment addition 1. So these are all existing patio homes. Some of you maybe live in them. This is Arborview North. And again, I'll try to go slow, reasonably slow, but not too slow because it's. We're headed south. We're headed sort of towards California Road. I'm going to speed up a little bit because this is too boring. So that would be
right there.
That would be California. Your entrance onto California Road is right there. So we're going to turn and go towards Arborview South. And so that's Arborview South, the piece that sticks out to the west. And that's the new, essentially 2.5-story addition that comes off of that. So that's what we call building addition 1 and all the things that I showed you. There's that new covered entrance off of the parking lot, so we'll go in a little closer.
Now, Pat, what is going to be above that entrance on the second floor where there's currently gathering space?
So the existing gathering space is essentially unimpacted. There's a new sort of outdoor little patio right there that I can show you in plan, but there'll be a little outdoor space off of that second floor patio that doesn't exist today, sort of tucked up behind in here.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. So the cathedral window is going away, am I right?
Correct. That's right. It'll be essentially inside.
Can we put it somewhere?
In Janice's apartment.
Okay, I'll take it.
So, again, so we'll go out of the parking lot and towards building addition 2.
Okay.
And Bill mentioned earlier that there are a bunch of, whoa, I don't know what that is.
That's the new art feature.
Please ignore whatever that is.
Jurassic Park.
Terrifying. I'm still getting, hang on, I can't drive.
Four-wheel drive.
On the grass.
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to switch to, instead of walking around view, I'm going to switch to flying around view because then I can fly through stuff. We'll get around that thing and we'll get back on the road here. All right, so that's building addition 2. Building addition 2 is only 2 stories, exactly like the current buildings are. So it looks very similar to the existing building. So in between these, Arborview South, Building Addition 2, and Building Addition 1, there is a parking lot, but there are also 2 landscaped amenity spaces. We haven't built those out, but on this side there is a grill station with a large gathering area, seating, all kinds of things. So the residents of Arborview South and the new residents of Arborview South expanded will have access to a sort of an amenity at that end of the building. On the opposite side is a fire pit with, again, some other seating around it. So there are 2 landscape amenities. I won't say that they're only for Arborview South, but because of their location, they're more likely to be used by residents of Arborview South.
So the two new wings in the south are creating sort of like a courtyard, which is going to have, again, as I mentioned earlier, our goal is to add, one of our goals is to add more gathering space. So there'll be some really nice outdoor gathering space there.
Why is it that the one you said stays at 2, why don't they have another?
So the primary reason is that.
Repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question was, why isn't building addition 2 3 stories? So there's a bit of a trade-off. In order to do that, we would have had to add an additional elevator. So there would only be, because it connects to your existing Arborview South, so right now they can use the existing elevators for that one. There is a new elevator in building addition 1, but because there are only 8 apartments in that building, we would only have 2 new ones on the 3rd floor. To add an elevator just for those 2 apartments seemed sort of not good use of resources. So that was the decision that was made. Even the new buildings that are 2.5 stories, they're exactly the same height as your existing buildings. As I talked about earlier with all of that roof space that you've got, these new buildings aren't taller than your existing buildings. So again, that's again building addition 2. There's a new maintenance building that's going to replace some of the storage that's currently being occupying some of the carports down there. This is the loading dock right there. The health center is kind of in the back here. I'm going to go around that.
Can you go back a bit?
Yep.
We're in one of those patio homes there, so I want to know where that maintenance building is going to be. Will we use some backyard?
No. So there's a fence between you and the loading dock now. That fence stays. Everything is on the other side of the fence.
Are we going to take away the trees that are on that loading dock side of the fence?
I think we're adding additional landscaping in that area to help with that buffering. But generally speaking, to the extent that it's on the other side of the fence, it's relatively close to where the new maintenance building goes. Then there's the pathway from that apartment, from that patio home to the common area that I think you use to get in through the back there. Stays roughly the same. There will be some additional landscape buffer between that patio home and the new maintenance building. There's some additional landscaping along the loading dock itself, sort of where that wall from the health center looks over the loading dock. There's a pretty significant amount of new landscaping that's going in there to sort of improve that experience. Because I think a lot of the patio home people come in sort of through that corner, so we've tried to improve that experience for those of you that come that way.
I think the main concern was there's trees on the loading dock side of the fence. There's some river birch, I think, right there that are and maybe even some pines right up against the fence.
I can look at the landscaping drawings. I don't remember specifically those trees, where they're located relative to them. We can follow up.
There's some trees that in the summertime at least block all the light that comes from the loading dock area, which comes right to the bedroom.
So getting rid of the trees would be good?
No.
Okay.
Shut in their face.
I think the ones that she's talking about are going to be staying. The taller pines will be staying.
Good.
I think.
Again, sure. I can follow up with the specifics of that afterwards if you want me to.
Where is maintenance?
Matt's right there.
So now I'm
Is
going
there a
to.
building or?
So as behind where Margot Hipp was talking, behind their patio homes, there's a walkway. There might even be like a little bike rack there, and it's the walkway to get the employee entrance. There's going to be a building in that grassy area for storage, and it's going to go out into the actual driving parking area of the loading dock. So it'll be, and actually that should block some of the light as well. That might be coming from the dock. So because of all the carports that are disappearing for that new parking lot courtyard area, between the two new buildings off the south, Matt loses quite a bit of storage area. So now we'll have a space where he can park his equipment.
Thank you.
So right now, that's the health center and some of your existing patio homes. We're about to get to the new patio homes. They are sort of out at the end of the road, out from the
Oh, yeah.
There's the
The
ocean.
health center. So that's your swamp that exists on the other side of, say, the gardening area. Health center's back over here.
We prefer wetland over swamp.
Fair enough. Those are the new patio homes. I think you'll find that they look very, very similar to your existing patio homes. There's some slight tweaks to the interior, but otherwise basically the same. We got some more unusual growth in the model here. We'll have to get that cleaned up. So this is building addition 3, which for some reason has that in it. So I'm going to come around to the other side of it. We'll talk about the landscape amenity out where your garden area is and your pavilion is. But here's building addition 3 and your community building. Arborview North is over there, unchanged. So we'll sneak in through the parking lot here.
But isn't building 3 in phase 1?
So the phasing is complicated. We're going to have a meeting similar to this one with the general contractor to talk you guys through, I think, how the phasing is going to work. I wouldn't want to get into too much whether it's phase 1 or phase 2. I believe that additions 1 and 2 are actually quote unquote phase 1. So out below south of Arborview South, I think when they're still going to sort of move in sequence, so they'll work on addition 1, do the foundations for that, then move on to the foundations for addition 2, and then the foundations for addition 3, and sort of keep their subcontractors sort of working in a logical manner so they're always busy and they're doing it in the most efficient way possible.
And when does the commons area get done?
Very complicated question to answer.
So Sue was asking a question about phasing, and we'd like to bring Lehigh in here to talk a little bit more about it. It is very complicated because I think the original plan was, let's build the apartments and then do the commons, and that would make this project probably closer to 5 years. We as administration, we wanted to, because of what you're going to have to live through for probably a 2-year period, we wanted to give you the commons, the amenities additions right away. So we worked with Lehigh, and when they say phasing, as Patrick was pointing out, yes, the new wings are going to happen in a certain order, but they're kind of in a similar time frame. They're within months of each other. But at the same time, we ask that they go ahead and start on the inside as well. So we're going with a rip the Band-Aid off approach and try to do as much as we can all at once. So the hope is, while they're still doing the finishes of the new wing on the inside, you have the amenities here already, or at least the majority of them, so that you can enjoy it and have something to look forward to rather than walking around construction for a longer period.
Thank you.
But it is complicated. It's hard to answer. I'm really sorry. I think it'll make more sense once we get the folks who are actually building it to explain it. It might be a little better.
Will you be saving the bocce court?
Yes. So
we're going to be improving the bocce court.
That's right. So we're adding a landscape seating area out in that space, sort of to improve the experience. There's a larger patio that sort of comes off the health center piece as well. So there's, all told, there's roughly speaking 5 new sort of improved or new landscape areas on the site. Again, if people have specific interest in that, I can pull up the landscape drawings later in the conference room.
So we did engage another architect, not as good as Patrick, but still very good landscape architect who really designed all of these outdoor spaces. So we didn't get to see a lot of like where the bocce court is and what that gathering space is going to be. I know Pat's going to go and show us the over the garden area and what that's going to look like, because that's going to be completely different as well. But this is an example of something that's going to be a little different.
So that's that new library space that I showed you, sort of the final, more finished rendering version, but a pretty neat space.
So that rotunda is probably right where we're standing, right where I'm standing.
Yeah, it's right on the other side of the outside wall right there. So this is your current porch. I'm standing like just inside the wall, like right here. Bill's right over here, and you guys are all sort of in the background over there. So I'm going to run out quick to the I'm gonna fly out there actually just to speed things up a little bit, and show you the new sort of pickleball and/or pavilion space. So we're not showing you remotely all of the things that are going out here, but your existing pavilion is going to get expanded with this piece here, and what's going to be underneath that is a new sort of grill area and sort of entertainment venue. So there'll be dedicated seating. There will be literally, I think, 2 grills. There'll be opportunities to have really big sort of parties out there. Lisa has some pretty big plans for what that space is going to be. And there will also be attached to that is a sort of multi-use but pickleball-sized court for your guys' use. So I am going to fly up into the sky.
So the plan was we're going to add the pickleball courts, but we didn't want to just limit it to pickleball. We'll be able to put in posts and have a tent over it, and then use the existing pavilion as now a dining venue or an activity venue or an event venue. And Lisa was very excited, and Lisa was heavily involved with the design of what goes underneath there. And as Pat said, there's going to be a couple of grill stations. I don't know if anyone attended last summer. They had done an event outside and used that for a dinner venue, and we'll be able to do that. Lisa has plans to do that more often and with a bigger group.
That was great.
So you can see here, this is your existing garden area. Your existing pavilion is essentially the sort of one leg of this. We're going to expand the pavilion there, and all of that outdoor dining venue will be underneath that. And then the pickleball court is roughly speaking here. So that's the biggest of the landscape amenities, but all of the other ones that we've sort of mentioned or hinted at are also pretty impressively designed little spaces outside, unique to any of the other amenities that you currently have. So now we'll go in the front door of this building and walk around on the inside.
There we go. Zoom in.
I can change the time of day if you'd like, but I can't change the weather. And we wanted it to be sunny. All right, so here we are at the front door. Again, this experience should be very much the same. We're going to try to help a little bit with the snow and runoff and salt problem by dealing with the flooring a little bit differently than it's currently dealt with. But the space itself should feel very similar. We're not changing anything about the beams in the ceiling, any of that sort of grand space that you've got. As we mentioned before, the grand stair doesn't change. The new fireplace will be straight in front of you. It'll have a big, it won't be quite as small as your current one. The fireplace itself is probably the same size, but it'll have a big surround, sort of again in the sort of arts and crafts sort of style to it, sort of really make it an anchor for that space, because your current fireplace sort of looks a little diminutive next to the grand stair. So there's a whole new bunch of seating in here. I think the plan potentially is to have the interior designer come and do a similar talk to walk through the seating at some point and how this is going to work. Entrance into marketing here, the reception desk essentially unchanged in its same location. This is the new gift shop area here where that conference room is currently. I'm going to go, I'll go left, we'll come into where we are now. Let's go through the door. So as I mentioned before, this room mostly stays as it is, but what we're doing is we're adding this stage where behind this wall, essentially from here to the outside wall, which is about 10 or so feet away. So we're going to take this screen, we're going to move it to the back of that. This stage, it's not technically a stage, but it's an elevated area. It'll have a ramp to get up on top of it, in addition to the stairs in the front. And you will get, whatever, to the extent that you have speakers and performers and whatever, you'll have better sight lines from the back. Yes? Yes.
Will the lighting be improved in the general area around the fireplace? It's so
Yes.
dark now.
Yes. In the lobby, we are changing out a bunch of light fixtures. We're adding some additional light fixtures. It's fairly obvious that that space is darker than ideal. I mean, it seems very cozy, but there are probably times when you'd like it to be brighter. So that's the big change in this space, was essentially creating this stage back behind here. As we mentioned, we're going to improve the acoustics. We're going to do some work with the AV systems in here, so hopefully they work a little easier, a little more reliable, have less for Killian to do. So we'll go out the door over there, which is that door.
So the doors that we have are going to be
That's
still
right.
incorporated?
Those 3 doors stay the way they are, that door stays where they are, the outside door, all of that stays the same. The only changes that you're going to recognize, flooring is going to change, seating is probably going to change, is from this wall that way. Because this room more or less works the way you want it to. So as you come out, right now your bathrooms are entered through an opening here and an opening here. The only thing we did was we moved the openings to the side, so there's a little more privacy. It's a little sort of whatever, a little off the direct view line of everyone that's coming that way. So as you remember that view that I showed you earlier that was fully sort of rendered out, this is that pub space, the theater, the library and game area, the market on the right here. This doesn't have any of the fun stuff that's in here. There's a lot of space for display, whether it's baked goods, produce, stuff that Lisa is making in the kitchen. There's a lot of opportunities for display. There's food service equipment in here, 2 large refrigerated units and a freezer unit, so that to the extent that you want to get some ice cream or a ice cream treat, this would be the place where you would do that now. Out in the pub, we're changing the location entrance into the bistro, essentially right next to where your pizza oven is right here. There's a little closet that's behind your pizza oven now. The doors would be there, so you'd come out of the bistro. We have this big sort of arts and crafts inspired ceiling feature going on here. The doors to the service area basically stay where they're at, so you can go out there right now and sort of see where the end of the pub will be. The bar itself, we have these big storage units in the back for beer and wine, whatever the case may be that operations wants to put in there. Seating, very much traditional bars type seating, but we've got a bunch of other different kinds of casual seating going on here. There's a big round fireplace out in the middle of the space with seating around it. There's different kinds of casual tables and chairs. The pool table, the big TVs on the back wall. It should be a pretty bustling space. Golf simulator, again, sort of off to the side, not the focus of the space. The entrance to where the woodworking is, that door gets moved farther that way, closer to the health center than it currently is, so we can take as much advantage of this space as possible. We can go into the theater. So you can see big TV. These 3 panels are a sound absorbing material to help with sort of reverberation and some challenges that are associated with projecting sound in movies in spaces. But dedicated furniture for watching movies, more comfortable than the chairs that you're currently doing it in. But a pretty flexible space other than the chairs. You can use it for all manner of things. There's a counter in the back for snacks and whatever uses you may have for it. But that's the dedicated theater.
Yeah.
We'll go into the library and games. I mean, from a wow factor, I think the library is probably the most dramatic space that we have because it's got this big glass rotunda, pretty fun light fixture, lots of seating around this thing. The space for the computers, as I mentioned, is in the back here. Bookshelves lining most of the walls. It's a pretty cool space. So we will go out of the library and games, we'll go past the market that we talked about, and we'll go into the bistro. So the big change in here is really just how the seating is arranged. We have these walls, half walls. They don't show up. They're going to have interesting textures and colors. They'll also do some of the work towards the solving the sound problems. We have some rowdy tables still in here, but there are some somewhat more intimate dining opportunities in here for smaller groups, individuals, 2s, 4s, etc. Your existing bistro serving line basically remains the same other than some finish refresh. And then we have an updated training kitchen. Similar function. It'll look a little bit more like if you've ever watched a cooking show on TV, in terms of just a really nice, modern looking residential kitchen, but opportunities for people to sit there and observe classes, participate in classes. We're going to incorporate cameras into that space so that those activities can be broadcast out to the larger community. There's a big TV in the back. But again, it's essentially a residential kitchen gussied up to look a little bit nicer. We've tweaked your busing area a bit, opened up a little bit. We know you had some challenges with sort of how tight things were, but it has all the same pieces in it. There are a couple of additional small busing areas sort of built into the inner workings of that space. These are the.
Is there a cappuccino machine anywhere? I would like one of them.
You and me both. This doesn't show it, but that's obviously easily accommodatable if Bill chooses to go that direction.
Bill wants to get it.
Yeah. So the existing doors that you have stay exactly the same on this side out into the lobby here and into what we called the pre-dining in the plans that we were showing. All of that stuff remains the same. The ceiling is similar, although we've made some slight tweaks to it. We've gotten rid of every column in that space that isn't holding up the roof, because those columns were making that space harder to use, harder to furnish. They weren't doing you very much good, to be honest. So we've eliminated all of those, tried to improve the lighting a bit. Again, we spent a lot of time thinking about how the sound works in there. So exiting the bistro and going into the dining room, that space that you have now where the wood ceiling is and the wood trusses are, nobody seems to like that particularly much. So we've gotten rid of the beams, the trusses, the wood ceiling, and replaced it with, it's a similar volume, but it should be a bit lighter. We've added a new fireplace. It's actually 2 fireplaces on either side with some screen walls. You'll see these screen walls show up everywhere in this dining space. Again, that arts and crafts thing, you remember I mentioned before, the way that those squares work in that arts and crafts thing. So you'll see that motif all over the place in here. It's not a direct version of what they would have done in the 18th century or 19th century, but it sort of keeps that vibe going. So again, as we talked about, we tried to create more intimate dining spaces. So there's actually a little bit of more casual seating immediately as you come. This is where your sort of main entrance is off of your sort of pre-dining. There's the lobby in the background. So when you come in, there'll be a revised version of that screen wall that exists there today. And behind that will be some casual furniture around a fireplace. And on the opposite side, a rowdy table, and another fireplace, some screen, again, some more screen wall, similar. So really trying to take that large dining space and make it into a series of smaller, more intimate dining opportunities. So these are those movable screens that I mentioned before between the new dining expansion and the existing dining space. The wall to the Acorn room is essentially where this is now. So you can get a sense. The overall sort of shape of the dining doesn't really change, but we have reconfigured the seating. We got rid of that bump out that's in the corridor that heads out towards the breezeway. Sort of incorporated that space into the dining. But the window trims, the what we call borrowed lights, but the windows that look a lot like the doors, we've got those going into that corridor, the wainscoting. There's so much of that, and it's so rich that we've incorporated it, and we're reusing a bunch of it where possible. But we're sort of taking that, and the new stuff is going to use that as a stepping off point for a design that's a little more modern, but very honors that original design very much. These panels will have some sound absorbing material in them in addition to being slightly transparent, so this room can feel sort of connected between the two, but also has its own feel. Thank you. This new dining expansion mentioned as a big skylight, big windows looking out towards the koi pond, and then that big door that goes out to your patio area is out there. A bunch of different seating configurations in here as well. But again, trying to make your dining room less of a sort of big open space with all the sound challenges that go along with that. So we will go out of the dining room, out of the normal way that you go in, to that sort of pre-dining area, and we will go left to the new art gallery, which right now is a very sort of intentionally plain space. You're supposed to decorate it with art, so there's not a lot of decoration in this space. We're going to have some very specific dedicated lighting that doesn't show up in this model, but will be in there. But a space very much, there's some opportunities to have some displays in the middle of the room in addition to stuff hanging on the wall. But that's where your current gift shop is. So there's the new lobby fireplace. It's a two-sided fireplace, so you can see through it. On one side, in this sort of pre-dining, there's some furniture with a casual seating area, but also in the current rotunda space is some additional casual seating, big beefy fireplace with a lot of mass to it, so sort of play nicely with your grand stair. There's us back here in the event center. That's the way to the entertainment district, entrance to the bistro. So we're going to go.
So we move the fireplace from where it is now to straight ahead when you walk in for a couple of reasons. It gives a better sight line to the new entertainment district from the rotunda area, from the main common area, but also the functionality of the fireplace is greater now, because although the existing has two sides, no one really sits on the other side because it's more of a walkway. Where the new location will have two sides where the pre-dining area gets to enjoy it, and there'll be seating there, which they're seating there now, and then the other side on the rotunda side. But we also want to make, as Patrick was designing this, we wanted you to still be able to see when you walk in the door beyond it. So you'll be able to see on both sides with the way it's designed, and actually through it to still catch a view of the oak room. So it'll still have a similar feel but better functionality.
Yeah?
Yes.
Keep it cozy.
Thank you. Yes, cozy. Yes, Peg.
How about the traffic pattern as people come into dinner? Would that be?
So right now, so the question is the traffic pattern, and really it's dictated by where we put furniture. Right now, as people will walk through there, but there is kind of furniture in the way. So the traffic pattern will be going around that fireplace, obviously. You wouldn't be able to go straight through, but there's furniture there now anyway. So it will change slightly, but again, our goal was to not diminish the pattern, but to improve it as you're also taking advantage of the new area where the new pub and theater are.
So one little thing is right now in that pre-dining area, there's a sort of a L-shaped closet, sort of coat hanging area. It's sort of storage for walkers and wheelchairs if necessary. We sort of moved that out of the primary view space around the corner. So this is that corridor. This is the entrance to the locker rooms is over here. So all of that coat and whatnot storage is off the sort of beaten path a little bit. It's right next to where it currently is, but it's not as prominently in the view line as you come in and out of that space. So
Will there be
we'll,
rooms for both coats and and walkers.
Yes.
Which there isn't now.
Yes. It's a significantly deeper space, so obviously around the edges, we have coat hanging opportunities, but it's a significantly bigger space.
So if anyone didn't catch that, there will be space not just for coats, but for walkers as well.
So that's the entrance to your your existing locker room. We really aren't doing anything new in there. We're providing some new lockers, but otherwise that space is not being impacted. So into the new exercise room, we're showing exercise equipment here. We're still in the process of nailing down exactly what that exercise equipment is. Allison's been deep in the weeds of picking out that equipment and getting the layout right. So we're showing this as a representation of exercise equipment, but it's not intended to be the actual exercise equipment. But as you know, this is the access to the pool. So there's a bunch of things where over time, you guys have expanded that exercise area as much as you could, given the original layout of that space. We're less bound by those original concerns in our current version, so we're able to free up more space in there. We still have some of the circulation patterns, you still have to get to the pool, all that sort of things, but it creates a much larger space, and this space is just dedicated to equipment. So right now you're doing every kind of exercise thing in this space, whether it's equipment-based, treadmills, weights, strength training, whatever the case, but you're doing it all in this one room. So that stuff gets its own dedicated room, but all the other sorts of things that you're doing, yoga or exercise balls or any of those classes that you're doing, gets a whole new dedicated space that looks out into the courtyard back. Sort of the breezeway is right around the corner over here. You can't quite see it. This is the corner of the pool. But you get a pretty dramatic, interesting space for doing whatever kind of exercise programs you guys can dream of. But they're connected. We're replacing the existing outdoor windows with new windows that are bigger, so those two spaces are connected to one another. It should have a very bright and inviting character to it. There's some storage for cubbies to put your shoes or whatever case may be, your stuff when you come for a class. If you live in a patio home, you might have some stuff that you need to, oh, yep.
Yes, for this population, a lot of people have to go to PT for whatever reason, formal PT. When they're done with their PT, sometimes they have to do those exercises for the rest of their life. Is there an accommodation to have time or access to that space for people who have to do their own independent PT, but they don't keep all that equipment in their home?
So the question is, for folks who are on a therapy program, say they have rehab next door, and at some point insurance cuts them off, and then they have to stop taking PT, but they still need to do those exercises. This is part of our grand plan. Yes, we want to give you the opportunity to continue those exercises using the fitness center, using the equipment we have there, but also, more importantly, using our fitness instructor. Matt will be on hand to be able, he's going to train with our therapy departments and be able to come up with a program or use your existing program that therapy designed for you to continue that going forward, either on your own or with help. And we'll have opportunities, like we're adding tables maybe for stretching. And we also have the opportunity to use, when it's not being used by a massage therapist, that room across the hall as well as part of that space. So we're still developing the operational piece, but yes, our goal is to, the reality is all of us, I've done physical therapy before, and you have this list of exercises, and you get home and you never see that piece of paper again. I don't know where it goes, it's a file somewhere. But we want to be able to help you and give you the equipment and the personnel to help you with it. Yes?
But for those of us that are independent,
yes,
don't necessarily need the oversight of the trainer.
Right.
Competition for that time with classes and everything that's going on, to be able to come in and have some free time that we can have access to that facility, to the equipment, where we don't have to schedule time with the trainer, or we don't have to compete with a class.
And so the question is, if I want to do this on my own, I don't need the help of Matt, and folks will be using, there might be classes. It's going to be similar to how it is now, but with more access to more equipment. So the classes will be on the other side of the equipment wall for the most part. I don't believe Matt has any plans to do classes on the equipment, other than if somebody needs to be shown how to use it. So if you want to use that equipment, it'll be just as it is now, but with more options for different exercises. As Pat said, alluded to, Allison has worked with now 2 different options for folks that want to come in, and it's another engineer architectural group that comes in. All they do is design fitness centers. We're going to be putting in that equipment, and you should have access to it. As to if somebody's using it in a particular time, I don't know that we have plans to use a scheduling system, but certainly to be like going to any gym. Someone's on the equipment you want, you go to use another piece, and then you get to it when they get off.
Well, I'm thinking more of things like the uses of the ball, uses of resistance bands, having the appropriate anchors in the wall, or the the frame so that you can put your bands where they would need to be to do your kind of benchmarking against somebody like Excelsior or UBMD, and just pointing and seeing what do they have, how do they use it, and what can we incorporate other than treadmills and ellipticals and stuff
I
like
got
that.
you. Yes.
Reach a point in life where those aren't an option because of balance issues.
Right.
Right? You need 2 feet on the floor, but you need to work your muscles.
Yes, as it gets built, and we will accommodate all of that, and yes, because I'm picturing it right now. I'm actually going to UB Ortho. I went yesterday to be able to use those bands and to be able to attach it to certain pieces of equipment. Yes, we will work operationally to develop that. It's not necessarily part of the design that Pat's going through, but operationally we will do that.
Thank you.
Can we walk outside and see the walkway?
We absolutely can go outside. We're going to take one quick detour, go look at Creative Arts and the salon and the massage room, and then we'll go outside towards Arbor View North and show you that new covered walkway. Actually, we'll make a quick stop at the new mail area, the U.S. Postal Service. So that accommodates all of you and your new friends. You can see sort of dedicated non-USPS communication cubbies underneath, sort of dedicated. So if your mailbox is here, then your cubby is down below. We're moving the ATM over to that area because it doesn't have a good home in the new entertainment district, but it seems like as good a home as any for that. We're repurposing some of these existing windows that you've got that we're taking out of certain locations and putting them in so you'll be able to view. This is a view, this is into the salon, this is into that exercise area that we were just in. This is the door to Arbor View North, which we'll go out in a little bit. So this is sort of the wellness and the creative arts area. So there's a bottle filler over there. There's a little lobby area outside. This is the salon here. This is the door to the massage room. We don't show any equipment right now in there. We show some furniture, but we're not showing the styling stations. There's 2 styling stations here. There's some dryer chairs. There is a manicure setup, and there's a space for a pedicure setup as well. But that space hopefully is a pretty significant improvement over your current salon. Some fun stuff going on in the ceiling, just to make it a little more interesting, a little more salon-like. The massage room, obviously we're calling it a massage room, but as we talked about, you can use it for other things as well. But it is really has that in mind. You can sort of get a sense of how big it is. That's a typical massage table. But there's some storage, there's hand washing sink, all the things that you would need for that space. And then as we come out, we'll go into the creative arts. There's some office space over that way. That's the wellness and exam door there. There's nothing really very interesting going on inside there. New creative art space. So storage cubbies for whoever's using them. These are the windows. I'm going to go stand in Bill's office. Wow. That's right here. So those are Bill's windows. He's given those windows up and moving upstairs.
That's my view.
So this space is intended to be a real feature for doing arts and crafts and other kinds of activities like that.
Where do the uses go that are creative arts now?
Can you say that one more time? What did you say?
Where do the uses go that are in creative arts now? All the activities are there.
So the current creative arts is going to be the new theater. So essentially we're taking the admin folks and moving them upstairs and creating this space so that the creative arts can have a less multi-purpose space for their use. You can obviously use it for more than just that, but that's the goal. Yes?
Could we go back to the mailroom, please?
We can go back to the mailroom. Does anybody have any questions in this space before we move back out? But we'll go back to the mail.
They're all the same, up and down, is good, or they're adjusting, because not everybody's the same height. Some people with wheelchairs and whatever can't reach what there is now, and shorter people have problems, but how are you going to arrange those?
So the question is, how do these accommodate people with whatever, varying heights, mobility challenges, etc. So it's almost impossible to fully solve that problem. But the U.S. Postal Service is very, very specific about what you have to do to meet accessibility requirements. So the height that they are off the ground, the tallest, as high as they can be, you have to meet all these standards, otherwise you don't get to be considered an accessible use. So the lowest ones are down about this high, the highest ones are about this high. So we try to, with that, similar to your current setup, accommodate as many people as possible. But it is always a challenge, and there's no magic answer to solving that problem is the problem.
Leaving some open.
Yeah, there are a few extra for sure in here. The real challenge is that they want to be numbered, obviously, to match the apartments. So that would be one of our very, very weedy, specific things that we go through during construction is deciding how the boxes are numbered. Yes?
Pat, are they accessed by the mail carrier from the front or from the back?
They're still front, just like the ones they are now. Rear access ones eat up a lot of space that is only to the benefit of the mail carrier. So as long as your mail carrier is okay with doing the front loaded ones, that's what we prefer as well.
He's very friendly. He'll be fine with it.
So we're going to go out the doors. These are the existing doors, essentially, where they're located. You'll see there's some weird model stuff going on out here, but there's a new vestibule, and then there's the new covered walk headed towards Arborview North. So that's the exercise.
But it's still going to be open to the elements.
It is not enclosed. We looked at having an enclosed version of this. The challenge is, and I'll finish this walk and then I'll explain why we ended up with this. And if you want to, I guess you could blame Matt. Is he still here?
No, he left.
Nice. So the challenge, and it may be fairly obvious once you see me back up a little bit, is that there's a lot of maintenance that needs to happen in that space. Yeah. So if it's a fully enclosed, because the existing breezeway is fully enclosed, if you enclose this direction, then you have to bring lawnmowers, you have to bring a bobcat, theoretically, through an enclosed space into that courtyard. So it was determined that a more permanent version of what you currently have sort of satisfied the sort of compromise necessary to make this work. Because if we in our originally enclosed version, you had to take all of that stuff through a finished building to get to do the maintenance.
That's good.
So the new roof is permanent, but we will have sides that will go on to block the winds in the winter time.
Does anybody have anything?
Is there still a gazebo?
Yes. We are not doing anything currently on the inside of your big courtyard between Arborview North and Arborview South, so that gazebo stays, all of the landscaping that's in there stays in its current design. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to see? Any other questions?
Is there still a greenhouse?
There is still a greenhouse.
I move to adjourn.
Amen, Marty. Thank you, everybody, for putting up with 2 hours of this.
Thank you, Patrick, for coming out and taking time. Thank you for your patience. This is the longest coffee hour we've ever had. And as I said before, if you have anything specific and you really want to see more, Patrick will be in the conference room outside of Pamela's office. And have a great weekend. Go Bills.